Good day everyone, this is our presentation of our final project for DC-105 Data Science Fundamentals. This is Data Cleaning and Exploratory Data Analysis Challenge. In this presentation, we'll be covering the data set, the data cleaning process, EDA, insights and findings, conclusion, and the takeaway from the theme.
About the datasets, the data was given by Sir St. Marcosenia, which is from the Kaggle repository. Ang dataset is nagre-represent ng daily operational transactional ng isang cafe na galing sa isang point of sale system noong 2023. Ang datasets na ito is merong 10,000 rows and 8 columns. Ang file format niya is CSV and approximate file size niya is 550 kilobytes. So, ang data variables niya is consisting of categorical nominal, numerical continuous, numerical discrete, and date and time. Ang observation namin is marami siyang missing values and incorrect data types.
So in this section, I'll be discussing the data cleaning process and how we handle the missing values, how we remove duplicate records, how we standardize any inconsistent data, how we corrected data types, and how we handle any outliers. And this is using the Orange Data Mining app. Okay, initially, there's around 10.2% that are missing from our data set. And how we handled it is per column. So for the items, looking at items, makikita natin na yung kada item has unique price for each of them. So there's no other price for juice, there's no other price for salad. So we can say, or we can use this data as our baseline. However, though, for sandwich and smoothie, they share the same price, which we will be dealing with later. Same with cake and juice. So starting with the item, what we did is to reconstruct the item or the missing item name using a Python script. So on the Python code, what we did is to create a price reference, and that is based on the price na nakita natin dito sa scatterplot. After that, nire-run lang namin to determine kung ano nga ba yung item name using that price. Then for the quantity, what we did on the code is to recalculate based on the existing data, which is yung price or yung total price, and we're also using the price per unit. So say once we have already established the item name, we can determine the price per unit if it's missing, and then divide it from the total spent to get the actual quantity. So for the price per unit, as mentioned earlier, ginamit namin yung item name to reconstruct it, and we also recalculated it as well as our second phase if the item name is missing. So what we did is to divide the total spent by the quantity if it's present to get the price per unit. For the total spent, same logic was used. We multiplied the quantity and the price per unit to get its total. So for the payment method and location, what we did is to initially check the distribution for these columns. And looking at the distribution, it seems that the in-store and takeaway almost has the same amount, same with the payment method. So what we did is to pre-process it and imputed it by putting random values to apply the same distribution that we've seen from the initial data. And looking at the distribution now, this is the final distribution per location and payment method. For the transaction date, we also applied the same method. Duplicate records. So looking at the transaction ID, it appears that we do not have any duplicates. However, though, if we select the other data or other columns excluding the transaction ID, we can see that there are around 60 that are considered duplicate. But when we check the data itself, it seems that transaction date does not provide us the actual time. So for the duplicate records, we cannot really say na hindi valid yung transaction since there's no time for a specific date. So we kept our data as is based on the transaction ID. Based on the transaction ID, we're not considering any duplicate records. Next phase na ginawa namin is standardizing inconsistent data. So on top of the missing values, we have also identified columns that has strings like unknown or error. So for that, what we did is to use the edit domain widget. So for those that has error or unknown, we set it to null or question mark, and this applies to categorical values or columns. However, though, for numerical ones, we set it to 0. For location and payment method, we've also set it to null or question mark. And after setting those values, we have changed as well the data types. So we kept the categorical ones as categorical. Well, for the numerical, since initially merong nakalagay na unknown or error, Orange Mining app considers those as categorical. So we have changed those to numerical after changing the values to 0. And after that, we use our Python code to reconstruct everything, especially those that are 0. So next is detecting and handling outliers. So if we're to select all the columns, and then look at the distribution. So for the payment method, seems that it's pretty even. Same with the location. Total spend, though, we've seen some spikes in some amounts, but this is a derived value based on quantity and price per unit. So we've already checked price per unit, which is based on this scatter plot. So there are no outliers there. And looking again at the quantity, which is the most important one, there's no outliers. So it seems that the quantity or the maximum quantity is 5, which is a reasonable amount. And aside from that, there's nothing else. Okay. So on top of the 5 steps that we've made, we've also seen some records that we cannot reinstate, especially these 4, because there's no item name, we only have the quantity, there's no price per unit, and no total spent. By the way, for this missing information, payment method, location, and transaction date, that comes after, but I'm just going to mention that we've also removed those records that has 0 data, which I showed earlier, the 4 ones. Another thing worth mentioning is yung nakita natin kanina sa scatter plot na shared price for cake and juice, which is 3, and sa sandwich and smoothie na 4. So we've handled that using a Python script. We have removed every record na merong price na 3 at 4, at saka walang nakalistang item name. Since we cannot determine those, so we have decided to remove that from the data. And here's another Python script that I used to determine those numbers, and it's around 447, which is below 5% of our total data. So, acceptable na tanggalin yung mga records na yon. And after all the cleaning processes that we've made, we came up with 9,527 rows. And looking at the data table, if we're to sort it, there's no more missing values. Everything has been cleaned. Data info can also confirm that.
Makikita sa summary statistics na karaniwang 3 items ang binibili ng mga customers at nasa 9 peso average ang nagagastos nila. Makikita rin na coffee ang pinakamadalas nilang ino-order at cash ang madalas nilang paraan sa pagbabayad at maraming transaksyon ang ginagawa nila in-store. Makikita sa graph na ito na ang coffee o ang kape ang pinakamabenta noong 2023 habang ang smoothie naman ang may pinakamababang benta. Pinapakita din sa graph na ito na mas gusto ng mga customer ang kape kaysa sa ibang mga menu items.
Mahalaga itong bar chart na to kasi pinapakita yung mga products na mabenta. So, kung nagmamanage ka ng isang cafe, mas ipaprioritize mo yung mga mas mabebenta. And dun sa mga hindi naman masyadong mabenta like smoothie or sandwich, maybe we can check with the customers or conduct a survey kung ano ba yung preference ng mga customer. So it's either we improve the recipe or we totally remove those items para mas makapag-focus yung costing ng cafe dun sa mga mabibentang items.
Nakikita nyo noong February, yun yung pinaka-lowest peak ng taon with 722 transaction. At bumawi naman agad ito ng March na sumipa ng 834 transaction. Naging steady at stable naman ang volume natin buong summer. Pero ang pinaka-highest point natin in entire year ay pumasok noong October with 846 transaction. Bago siya level off ulit pagdating ng November at December. Ito ang seasonal fluctuations na ito na pakalaking tulong nito para malaman natin kung kailan ang dagsa ng maraming customer sa buong taon. Kita natin ang method distribution of payment methods. Kung titingnan natin ang breakdown sa pagitan ng cash, credit card at digital wallet, ay ang pinaka-interesting dito ay ang stability nito. Buong taon walang nag-iisang payment method ang talagang nakakalamang. Halos pantay-pantay sila buwan-buwan. Ang cash at credit card ay laging naglalaro sa 30-36 range bawat buwan, habang ang digital wallet naman ay consistent na humahawak ang natitirang third wheel ng share. Ibig sabihin nito, ang pinaka-diverse ng payment preference ng mga customer natin ay napakahalaga na patuloy nating i-maintain ang smooth at walang aberya ang tatlong platform na ito para iwas hassle sa checkout.
Product demand and menu item dominance. Ito ay tumutukoy kung ano ang pinakapatok o madalas bilhin ng customers. Mahalaga ito para malaman kung ano ang dapat i-prioritize o idagdag sa menu. Monthly foot traffic at seasonal fluctuation. Nagpapakita naman ito ng pagbabago ng customers kada buwan, kung kailan malakas o mahina ang benta depende sa season o occasion. Equitable multi-channel payment ecosystem. Ito ay tumutukoy sa pagkakaroon ng iba't ibang paraan ng pagbabayad, gaya ng cash, card, online wallets, na pantay-pantay na naa-access ng customers na nakakatulong para maging convenient at efficient ang transactions.
Just to summarize yung trends natin and pattern that we've seen from the graphs, it seems na mas mataas nga yung demand sa kape and salad and mababa yung sa sandwich and smoothie. And when it comes to monthly traffic, we've seen na medyo stable yung volume when it comes to April through September, and volume is fluctuating, especially on Feb where we see a dip, and in March wherein we saw a spike, same with October. However, this data that we have is for a span of 1 year, so we cannot really determine if there is a consistent pattern when it comes to a monthly foot traffic. Though for the monthly distribution of payment methods, we've seen na evenly distributed nga yung payment method ng mga customers between cash, credit card, and digital wallet.
Product category and sales volume relationship. Ito ay tumutukoy sa kung paano naaapektuhan ng uri ng produkto ang dami ng benta. Halimbawa, may mga kategorya na mas mataas ang demand kaysa sa iba. Temporal variable and transaction volume correlation. Ito ay nagpapakita kung paano nagbabago ang dami ng transaksyon batay sa oras, tulad ng araw, linggo, o buwan, kung saan makikita kung kailan peak o matumal ang benta. Temporal changes and payment method preferences. Ito ay tumutukoy sa pagbabago ng paraan ng pagbabayad ng customers sa paglipas ng panahon, gaya ng pagdami ng gumagamit ng digital payments kumpara sa cash.
Anomalies and unusual observation. The February transaction volume construction, sa datos na ito, napansin namin na bumababa ang bilang ng transaction noong February kumpara sa isang buwan. The insulated October foot traffic surge, napansin namin na tumataas ng malaki ang bilang ng customer noong October na maaaring dahil sa promosyon o mas mataas na demand. Localized shifts in payment equilibrium. May kaunting pagbabago sa payment methods na ginagamit ng customer pero nananatiling balanse ang paggamit ng cash at digital payments. Conclusion from data. Core consumer preference for quick refreshments and health-conscious dining. Batay sa datos na ito, mas gusto ng customer na mabilis na refreshment at healthy food options. Significant temporal fluctuational around the stable monthly baseline. So, kahit may mga buwan na mas mataas o mas mababa ang sales, makikita na stable pa rin ang overall performance ng negosyo. Highly mature and diverse payment ecosystem. Ipinapakita ng datos na komportable ang customer sa iba't ibang paraan ng pagbabayad kaya flexible ang payment system.
Overall, ang ginawa namin ay 2 phases. Una ay yung data cleaning. Ang second is yung EDA or exploratory data analysis. So, for data cleaning, una in-identify namin kung ano nga ba yung dataset na meron kami. Ang second is yung pinakamatagal, which is yung data cleaning process wherein we handle any missing values, duplicates, inconsistent data types, and any outliers. And second phase is yung ADA wherein we summarize yung statistics like yung mean, median, mode, and then we provided 3 visualizations na sa tingin namin is makakatulong sa cafe. And fourth is yung mag-identify ng or mag-provide ng findings and insights about the graphs that we've seen to see yung mga patterns and trends, any anomalies and relationships, and kung ano ba yung napagtanto namin sa data na nakuha namin. So when it comes to observation about the data set, initially we can say na heavily flawed yung data natin since there's an extensive requirement for data cleaning, especially dun sa mga inconsistent data, yung may mga error and unknown, and also yung mga may blanks. Secondly, I can say na rich naman yung data na meron tayo, considering na meron tayong different data types like categorical, numerical, and there are temporal values like yung sa dates, which is very useful when it comes to identifying trends on a monthly basis. However, though there's a limitation with the actual data set provided, it's only a span of 1 year, which is from 2023. It's hard for us to conclude na sa ganitong month is laging mababa or sa ganitong month is laging mataas yung benta, considering na it's just 1 year, so we cannot compare it with other years since limited lang yung dataset na meron tayo.
Ang pinakamahalagang natutunan ko ay ang paggamit ng mga impormasyong ito para makagawa ng mas matalinong desisyon, tulad ng pag-focus sa best-selling products, pag-adjust sa peak seasons, at pag-improve ng payment options para mas mapadali ang experience ng customers.
Ang pinakamahalagang natutunan ko sa project na ito ay ang kahalagahan ng malinis at maayos na data. Natutunan ko na bago gumawa ng analysis o conclusion, kailangan siguraduhin muna na tama ang reliable ang data. Natutunan ko rin na kung paano gamitin ang ADA upang makahanap ng pattern at makagawa ng data-driven decisions.
So, may key takeaways. So, natutunan ko kung paano pahalagahan yung data, kung gaano kahalaga yung data para sa data cleaning and data pre-processing para mas accurate and mas mapakinabangan pa yung mga data. So, dito rin ako nakakuha ng mga insights kung paano to gawin, paano mag data cleaning and mag-organize ng data, and paano gumamit ng mga visualization kagaya ng table, line graphs, and bars. Then, dito sa project na to na nahasa yung pagiging analytical ko sa pagbasa ng mga numero.
Sa akin, ang pinaka-takeaway ko sa project na to is yung paggamit ng orange data mining. Una nakapa ako kasi hindi ako familiar doon, pero as time goes o habang ginagamit ko siya, natutunan ko kung paano siya gamitin, which is a great tool actually. The only thing na notice ko lang sa orange data mining app is yung limitation when it comes to visualization. So there's limited customization when it comes to putting labels on axis and yung mga colors. But during the project, I've become cautious when it comes to using graphs and charts. So related siya dun sa isang activity na ginawa natin. Because normally sa trabaho, ang ginagamit ko lang is line chart and bar chart. So I had a chance to use some other charts during this activity. Though on our actual project, we only used 3. But during the actual process, I was able to explore other graphs. I think yun yung mga highlights ko when it comes to this project.